Okay, today we are going to interview you, Scott. If you want, you can just introduce yourself shortly. Who are you and what are you doing?
Okay. So my name is Scott Morrison, and I am the head of Urban Abbey, which is a church plant and a social engagement endeavor, all kind of wrapped up into one thing. Um, Also, you know, aspiring to be an abbey, which is a different kind of spiritual community that follows Jesus and yet loves neighbors through primarily hospitality. And we've been doing that for about 5 years now.
Great, that's cool. By the way, it's also like the church where us as a PACE team was serving the last time. And Doug is still there. Like, how do you think the Abbey or you in general are generous, or how do you show generosity?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that is important to bear in mind is that God commands us to be generous. So it's not meant to be an optional kind of thing. And so the generosity that the Abbey shares or exhibits, as well as myself personally, this comes from an obedience to God, not so much a strategy and not so much a lifestyle choice. Um, it's rather an understanding that as Jesus was generous with his time, his energy, his wisdom, his life, if we are to follow in the way of Jesus, we also have to be generous in similar ways. And that comes from not just what you do with your particular like amounts of money that you may be, blessed with or given or that you have earned, but rather it is an entire way of looking at the world and reality and choosing to be a obedient person who follows the example of Jesus. And what does that look like? It naturally looks like generosity in all kinds of different ways. So for myself personally, generosity looks like a whole number of different things, partly supporting Compassion Kids, partly always being willing to give of my time, whatever that happens to be. So I don't have set in stone time off that I don't allow, to be violated. I don't mind um, whenever I'm called or asked to do something, I'm generous with that. And also with the money question, the Abbey is a little unique in the fact that we pay people very, very little, myself included, so that we can rather spend those resources on the community and for those who are in need. And so that's some of the ways that the Abbey and some of the ways that I myself am generous, and we have it built into our rule of life. To be generous means you have to sacrifice some things. And so we choose to live a simple life, which has a focus on simplicity, which means that you really only consume what you need to, you only buy what you need to. If you looked at my personal expenses, you'd find that I buy hardly anything for myself. I'm a pretty low maintenance kind of person.
Cool. Thank you very much. That's pretty impressive. Like, I really like how you share it, and also that you shared the heart behind, and then it's like coming out of the obedience. That's really cool. Next question. What do you experience as you are generous, or like as you see the Abbey being in like working and acting in a generous way? Um, do you experience anything in that where you say, okay, you can actually like experience God in it, or anything like where you say, okay, that has an effect on the Abbey?
Yeah, I would say you begin to see it play out personally where I don't actually want a lot of things. So as you restrict your consumption as a consumer in our society, as you restrict your consumption, um, it's almost like when you're beginning a workout plan or you're trying some kind of diet thing. At first it's hard, but over time you acclimate to it. You change a little bit. And so now there are not a lot of things that I actually want as far as material possessions. And so that is something that happens over time. It doesn't happen right away. And then also, I don't consider a lot of things my own stuff. And so I'm more open and generous to simply share what I have access to. And the Abbey is like that as well. One of the ways that we've been generous is with our space. And so we allow many different people in the community to come use the Abbey space, even if it doesn't benefit the Abbey at all ourselves. But it's something that benefits the community and enriches the people who live in the neighborhood.
Thanks. That's really cool. I like this. Do you have anything where you would say like that's where you want to share? Any last words?
Yeah, I guess some of my last words would be that it is hard to begin, especially if you don't have an understanding or a solid grasp of the generosity that God has for you. And so if you are giving things away, or you're just not hanging on to lots of things, and you're using other kind of priorities to sort of help determine how you make decisions that are not money related, you have to be in a position where you're trusting God to take care of you, because you are putting yourself at a little bit of risk, even in the fact that you're not living in the exact same way that the rest of the people in the culture are. And so you have to have a firm trust in God that He will take care of everything that you need and that He will provide for you. And then it begins to peel away the illusion, and you begin to realize it's always God taking care of you anyway. It's always Him providing for you. And so then you begin to connect probably a little closer into what is true, the real. And so to live simply and live generously allows you to live more closely in alignment and attunement to how the world is actually run and what reality actually looks like, which is God who provides everything, who is generous with us and asks us to be generous with what He has given, so that we can learn how He feels, and we can begin to understand more the heart of Christ as we are generous in the same way that He is. Because if we're not generous, we will never unlock that side of the understanding of who Jesus is, and that piece of His personality, where then we see how much He loves to be generous to us. So you miss out on a huge part of your understanding, not only of reality yourself, but also of God Himself, if you're not a generous person.
Cool. Thank you so much. That was really great. It was encouraging, but also challenging, and that's great. Thank you for what you shared.